Welcome yet again to the stream. It's kind of a warm day here, so a little more fan noise than usual, but we have something a little bit random, a little bit surprising. Well, I had some hint that it was coming, but yeah, it's still one of the more random and surprising things. Some mail. The cat, on the other hand, is not so random and surprising. Well, actually he kind of is, but in the sort of consistent way where you come to expect him to be a little bit weird all the time. Are you coming over here, Tuco? I guess he is. So this is what we've got today. So this is a package from the Isle of Man. Some people might know what that might mean. Sender, Clive Mitchell, lighting module. So yeah, for a little bit of background, some of you might already know what this is. For the rest of you, if you've been around the kind of electronics YouTube world, you might know about bigclive. He does some really amazing, just like very relaxing sort of, electronics kind of teardown and explanation, and he buys stuff on eBay and takes it apart, and he talks about wiring and lighting, and he's into making LED things, and he makes kits sometimes, and he's done some really cool things with neon and LEDs. And so this was a little thing that he did recently, making a series of kits, which you can see on his channel. He has some videos about these, but they're kind of like an LED tree sort of thing that we can put together. So I'm excited about this. Let's dig in. And bigclive's videos are quite an inspiration. He manages to take these things that are, at least to someone who's been around electronics a lot, some of the topics are, they're things that I've been through a lot, and I've seen them, but he still manages to do a great job about just making the video itself just a relaxing and pleasing experience. So I think because of that, he manages to make stuff that appeals to a wide audience. You can learn things from it if you're watching a video about something that you don't know as much about in person, or you can watch something that's a little more familiar and just relax. So we've got some standoffs, looks like some solder, and some hot pink zip ties. bigclive is a fan of the pink, so that's pretty great. We've got a USB to, whoa, is this lightning? That's interesting. I wonder why we have a USB lightning cable. Oh, the plot thickens. And then maybe this is to, maybe this was just because these are really cheap and we needed a USB lead to power this, so maybe this is just to cut the USB lead off of. Because I don't think you can easily get the receptacles for this, but that might be what that's for. And these are some LEDs. I wonder if these are color changing. We can certainly light these up and find out. And then we have all of these little socket contraptions. So the deal with these is that you can twist them together into a pleasing arrangement. So these should all be, I think, the same length. I'm already prepped and ready to go. Solid wire so that they'll hold the shape. That's pretty nice. Oh, cool. Ryan confirms that you chopped the end off of that cable. That's cool. Probably should have refreshed my memory on how this works, like right before filming this, but more chances for mistakes. So it says, has the bigclive.com text on the back, and a nice radial layout for the resistors and the LEDs. And it looks like these two holes in the middle are for strain relief. Oh yes, that would be what the zip ties are for. And a little bit of leaded solder. And cute little feet. Now these are the kind that just snap in quite nicely. Ah, yes, and I remember him mentioning how the printing for these circuit board, so the manufacturers often put a little reference label, but that ended up right in the middle of the resistors. That's quite nice. So I assume these want to go in the back. I can go ahead and put that in. I can move this box aside. The beer is an important part as well. Oh, nice. Mike's Radio Repair in the YouTube chat says that this is the first time they've successfully gotten a live stream notification. Congratulations! It's always nice when the timing works out. And then also, it's pretty new, but I started, well, I had been simulcasting these to YouTube and Beam just to have some redundancy in services, but it seemed maybe like a bit more exciting to try using the Creative Channel and Twitch as the secondary service, and it has similar video streaming capabilities to Beam. So I have that set up too if anyone feels like joining at twitch.tv/scanlime. It's pretty much the same stream. Video quality might be a little bit lower or about the same depending on how much bandwidth you have. Did I put away my side cutters? That's silly. Let me get those back. Twitch does actually have some kind of interesting features. Like, I like the clipping feature it has, where you can actually just click a button and create a hyperlink to the last like 30 seconds of video or something like that. Or maybe it's 5 minutes, I forget how long it is, but I usually cut these off because I really don't like the gummy residue they leave otherwise. Satisfying to get a whole bundle of these off. Just maybe have manual focus for some of this. Yeah. Yeah, 4-2 toys go on the back, exactly. I thought at first these were threaded on the bottom, but maybe they're just hollow. And these look like, what is that, 220 ohms? Red, brown. Now that I've put the first one in, I've set the orientation. I'm going to have to put the brown stripe toward the center in all of these. So the electrons don't fall out, right? No, it doesn't matter. But it matters for aesthetic reasons, right? Where does Tuco? He's not on the rack. I think he might be behind the rack. He likes to chew on stuff, and he's had problems with chewing on wires in the past. I try to mitigate that both by keeping stuff in the rack and by putting like crinkly stuff that he doesn't like to bite on over the exposed wires. But I did find that he likes to chew on these bungee cords that I use to hold some chairs against the wall, and that seems like it isn't hurting anyone. Like, worst case, one of several bungees that are holding the stack of chairs will gradually come apart. It's under very little tension. It doesn't seem like it's hurting his teeth, so he might be doing that. I'm just going to push these against the board and bend the leads out a little. Those, yeah, those pink zip ties are great. This is nice thick-leaded solder, too. I was just doing a double take, like, oh no, did I accidentally put one in backwards? No, they're fine so far. It would have been terrible if I had. This is reminding me a little bit of the another YouTuber that you should really know about if you like this kind of thing is Fran from Frantone and Contour Corsets. She does all sorts of great electronics YouTubes, and her most recent one was making kind of a little LED toy with the color changing LEDs that she then encapsulated in hot glue. And hot glue actually makes a surprisingly good LED diffusing material. Hey Tuco, back for more? He just hopped sideways. I think he might be trying to make his way to look out the window. If he actually does that, I'll see if I can get the camera on him. This is an other project, but I've also been working on this robot that moves a camera around under internet/computer vision control to basically be a better cinematographer than the static tripod for my cat. And that would be super useful right now. Looks like he is back on the rack though. Train's back. I always appreciate the variety in the LED markings. Like these the resistor markings. These resistors all just came off of the same strip, but even among here, you might notice a lot of variation in the width of the color stripes. I remember when I was really young and learning this stuff for the first time, I thought that, I don't know, I just thought it was like interesting to collect the resistors with different kinds of stripes, and you know, I had some really old vintage ones that came from someone else's junk bin that they passed on to me, and then some like Radio Shack resistors or whatever else I could find at the time. Alright, so there's the resistors. Let's go ahead and solder those. Not necessarily the easiest thing to do to put the standoffs on first, but I found it satisfying, so I did it that way. This is going to be tasty. Oh no, yeah, birds chewing on lead solder balls, that doesn't sound good. I'm lucky that Tuco doesn't seem to actually be interested in like eating any of this stuff. He just kind of walks around it. This does flow really nicely. That one could have been prettier. Give that a little touch up. I like this surface mount style of attaching the wires. Just because when you pass wires through the board, you know, you gain some strength, but you also end up with this wire that, you know, if you're trying to lay it flat against the board, you immediately have to change angles, which then isn't so great. I think my desk is getting a little bit of a draft from the fan. I recently rearranged the stuff here so that the equipment rack that has all the streaming and workstation stuff here, it wasn't getting great airflow, and I was starting to worry about how warm it was getting, so I moved it around so that the like hanging fan that's blowing air from the outside into my space is pretty much just blowing air directly into the front side of the rack. That helps a lot. Seems to also create a little warm air exhaust spot on my desk that Tuco likes to hang out on. I know I'm gonna just absent-mindedly hit the soldering iron against one of these standoffs, aren't I? That's the extra drama that you want, right? In a live YouTube show? Gotta have some uncertainty about whether this is going to be an LED device or some unpredictable death trap, right? I mean, I guess one way of accomplishing that is to just like run it at super high voltage or put it in a microwave or something, but those are the cheap tricks. We gotta keep it classy here, right? Nah. Classy is all about exclusivity. We want stuff that anyone can do, but is maybe something that requires a little more paying attention to stuff and not just putting voltage in. That said, you get plenty of entertaining failures trying to do any kind of building stuff. I unfortunately didn't get the last one on tape. Well, on SD card, I guess is what we're storing things on these days. I was testing a motor driver off camera and just blew it out. It was just kind of like a pop and some smoke, though. It wasn't really that much. But of course there's that moment of adrenaline and panic where you don't know what happened, you just know something went wrong. And of course, if you've had any of these kind of failures before and you're working with like anything that can fail, you tend to have a little mental inventory of all the possible failures anytime you're running something. So when you plug it in, you already know what could go wrong. And then when you've noticed that something has gone wrong, you start going through that mental checklist. But of course, you know, before you actually have time to go through the list, you're like yanking the power plug out of it. So I'm powering it off. Before I have it powered off, I don't know what failed, but of course, it might have been the capacitor. It might have been, I don't know. The capacitor would be the worst thing to fail, but considering I wasn't covered in hot shrapnel, it probably wasn't that. So the chip just ended up losing some of its magic smoke and or magic goo. Alright, that's all the resistors. Let's trim these nice and flat. This is a relaxing way to spend an evening. I was doing random stuff, but like my biggest thing that I was trying to get done today was to make progress on the WinchBot CAD. Because I still have the printers busy on a lot of the WinchBot parts, but I'm about to need some of the parts that mount the electronics on the bottom side of the winch. And that still needed some design. I was still in the process of trying to figure out where to put things, and then I was reconsidering which power inlet connector to use, because the one I was using had these wide mounting ears that were getting in the way, stuff like that. Oh, Fred is asking if I'm going to go back and make the pretty solder balls. You know, I don't know. I wasn't really planning on doing that on this kit. I'll do that for some of the, like, that was kind of something I was doing for like the really, really detailed detail-oriented kind of bold port stuff. I don't know. Maybe I'll try it for this kit. It would actually look pretty nice on this side. This isn't the main side of this thing, but let's see what it looks like. This is a trick that I learned from Sar, a drummer who does bold port, which is a pretty nice electronics subscription kit service kind of thing. But he does this thing purely for aesthetics, which I might want to do on these inner ones after I insert the LEDs, but let's try it on this outer ring at least. And he does this thing where after you trim it, to eliminate that sharp trimmed edge, you just go back and add a little bit of solder, you know, and of course the flux that comes with it, and that reflows it into a really nice, pretty solder ball that you won't snag anything on. So that's actually kind of nice. Some people might argue with this because there are maybe some reasons not to do this, like it makes certain kinds of failures a little bit harder to notice, but it looks nice, and for something that is low voltage and low current like this, do whatever you feel like, mostly. Yeah, that looks nice. Some of these could use a little more trimming because there was a sharp spot. We'll also need to go back and clean this, of course, because I'm splattering flux everywhere. You know, you don't have to do it, but it's a nice aesthetic touch if you feel like it. There are certain circuits, and certainly certain types of flux where you need to clean the flux off, but most solder these days has no clean flux, which means it's designed not to corrode your circuit terribly if you leave it on. And if your circuit is not super sensitive, then it won't mind a little bit of flux residue. Okay. Sorry if that was drifting out of frame. Cool. Let's see what's next, and restart the camera before it restarts itself. Okay, so we've got 2 spare resistors. Got a bunch of these LED leads and the USB cable. Maybe let's figure out how the USB cable goes on next, and then do all the LEDs last. So, I guess we can decide how long we want this to be and then cut it to length. This is a nice orange. Maybe he included this one just for the color. I can see why you would. It's pretty nice. So, I can get a length. I guess I might as well use most of this. I'll save a little bit just in case I want to make something that's also a lightning charger. And do we have data pairs? Looks like we do. Anyway, there are various ways to open this up. I think I'm just going to slice it with an X-Acto knife. I think Clive actually did demonstrate a technique for this, which I don't remember off the top of my head, so I'm probably not doing it the best way. You should go watch his video if you're actually building one of these. Not that there are a lot of these out there, but there's a decent pile of them. I'm sure other people are probably going to build theirs and make YouTube videos about it. Ow. I almost broke my thumbnail. Such weird terminology. Breaking a nail is supposed to be this like really easy and trite thing, but like the way that was going, it was practically gonna rip it off like right there, which wouldn't have been fun. I think that's just one of those ways that, you know, ways that jerks like to minimize other people's problems. why is there one? Oh, okay. I was like, why is there one data line? Okay, there's the green wire. I cut it down there. That's fine. I can strip that a little bit more properly. Robert is suggesting scoring the wire and then pulling it apart. That's kind of what I was trying to do when I almost turned my thumbnail inside out, so I clearly was doing something wrong. And I'll often just grab it with like a tool, but this wire seemed kind of delicate, like if I just tried to pull it apart with wire cutters that it would end up breaking. Anyway, so it looks like that just goes like this, with a wire tacked down there, a wire tacked down there, and then strain relief from... Is there just one zip tie? Is one of these a spare? There might be a spare zip tie. That's fine. And this, will this fit on its own? Oh yeah, that pink is nice. It looks pinker in person than it does on the monitor here. Maybe what I'll do is, just for a little extra strain relief here, I'll put some heat shrink tubing over this end, and then I'll tack down the power and ground wires. And I'm just going to cut off the data wires down here. And I'll cut them to slightly different lengths so they don't short against each other. Not that that's super important in this particular case, but it's kind of a nice practice. And heat shrink. Heat shrink's the next step. Oh, I also just got this new heat shrink kit in the mail because I was running low on all the colors or all the sizes I actually used. Oh, you also need to see these things if you're not aware of them already. What are they called? Solder seal wire connector? Solder seal heat shrink butt connectors. That sounds sexy. But yeah, and I used some of these off camera recently. I don't know if we'll have any reason to use them today, but I might just use some for fun because they're actually super fun. They have solder, or at least something solder-like, and two little beads, little rings of glue. So they form an electrical and watertight connection. It's pretty awesome. Oh, Tuco's got a great pose. So many things to choose from. This color kind of goes with the red cable. This heat shrink tubing feels different than I'm used to. Maybe it's thinner. Maybe I just won't even cut that. Maybe I will... So the plus actually has to be pretty short, so I don't want this to be... And basically I want this to grab around the insulation, and I want the plus to be right there, so maybe I'll trim this slightly more flat. Oh, and then I'll just bend these backwards, the two data lines, so then they won't short out with the plus that I have to terminate right there. And then I'll just bring the heat shrink right up to the edge of that little contraption. There's the focus plane. Let's try that. If I can hold that and heat shrink it. try to hold it somewhat straight as it cools. Yay. Okay, that seems nice. Then we need to cut these to length. This part actually is going to be kind of hard to do until after soldering the LEDs, so maybe it's good that we know how that's done, but let's actually maybe solder the LEDs on, because this has to go pretty much mechanically right on top of one of the LED solder pads. So, slight change of plans. Let's put this aside. It's ready to go when we need it in a sec. And instead, we've got this whole thing. Cute. It's kind of fun having the inner red ring like that. I don't know, it's a nice color scheme. And I think I'm going to want to gently bend each of these to keep them in. And then the idea here is that they get kind of twisted into sort of a tree form, but I think that's easier to do after you solder them all down. It's also possible it's easier to hold them all down with blue tack instead of bending all the leads. I don't know. I guess that works. Just do it a few at a time with your fingernails. Yeah, I really like heat shrink tubing. Should do... Oh man, actually there are going to be some heat shrink tubing wiring harnesses coming up probably for making these robots. I mean, the one that I did off camera was for the optical encoder. No, it was for the load cell. But yeah, one of the sensors on the winch. Is this going to be like grooming artificial hair, like a doll hair or a wig hair or something? I'm also just excited to see these LEDs. I mean, we could open these up and light them up with a multimeter, but I think that might be cheating. Let's just plug those in and be surprised. Because yeah, I feel like that sets the mood of the kit so much. You know, I forget what kind these are. I think they might be color changing, but they're also kind of nice and milky and diffuse. I feel like each LED has this strong association with a particular era for me. Like I still have fond memories of the fairly dim, like pretty inefficient, diffuse yellow LEDs you could get at Radio Shack in the 90s. You know, they weren't good by today's standards, but they had a really interesting feel to them. I also got some they were really old even at the time that I got them, but they're labeled as General Electric solid-state lamps. Super weird. Really dim, kind of shaped like a regular 5mm LED, but also doesn't have like the flat side that you'd usually see on a 5mm or the flange on the mold. So it's like a slightly different shape. Aw, I like that analogy. Heat shrink is magic wizard plastic. It's like a cat when warmed, it gets all melty and soft. Yeah. Tuco with his favorite blanket. I want all these to stay pushed completely in, because they kind of want to come out of the holes a little bit. Hey there, train. I know, right? Everyone just wants to be like, honk. But it's just not socially acceptable, so people don't do that. But the train can just do it. I mean, people complain about the train, but the train just doesn't care. It's a good attitude. Might have bit off a little more than I can chew with all that many. Let's try tilting these carefully. Yeah, it's tempting to just put putty around the wires. I wonder if I have enough. Nice. Mikey says, I toot my own horn all the time. That's great. That's the right attitude. You can just, I mean, otherwise, who's gonna know about the horn, right? Oops. 2 steps forward, 1 step back, as in life. That needs to be much thinner. Oh, the way bigclive solders with one hand, yeah. I don't know if just sticking down the outer leads will be enough, but that's what I'm trying. Seems alright. As one falls out, that's not terrible. Let's put that back in. I could also just solder a bunch of these, then add back the ones that fall out. Where's the fun in that? I mean, it's just the fun of being done, which is, you know, inferior to the fun of working on something. Okay, that might be better. And I think now, maybe bend these out so that I can sit it on this. It's okay, these aren't coax, these are just powering LEDs. Okay. I'm pretty sure I've held solder in my mouth for making challenging joints too. I would not recommend that, but it does not cause instant death. Yeah, maybe I'm getting a little too much draft from that fan. Although it's working to blow the fumes away pretty well. I'm gonna go back and do the solder domes on these, so I'm mostly just concerned about getting a good fillet on the solder at this point. Being sure that like the shape of the molten metal tells me that the whole joint got hot. Alright, that's all the outer ring. Let's go do the inner ring and then trim it. The pads are pretty much touching each other, so the heat can flow quite nicely. Solder's getting a little tangled. I don't think I've ever been tested to see how much like accumulated lead I've got in my body, but maybe I should at some point. I don't know what good that would be though. It'd be like, oh yeah, maybe eat less solder in your next childhood. Thanks. I don't think I actually ate any solder. Certainly more harmful for little creatures than big creatures, though. Kids and lead paint are more what I'd worry about than my desk, usually. Sometimes I get a second lead in the clippers also, which is not good. It's bad for clippers, bad for the remaining lead. Let's reflow that a little for aesthetic purposes so that it's less sharp. Aw, Robert says Sushi says hi to Tuco. Awesome. Tuco's chilling out on the rack. A generous little amount of solder. I suspect that even doing all this frivolous reflowing, I'll have plenty for the kit. This iron sure does keep up with putting out the heat. This is one of the Heiko FX 951s. Alright, I already did that one. Now the middle ring, and then finally the USB cable. This one will just look like kind of a chain of pearls, or like metaballs, because who's seen a pearl? Okay. That's all the gratuitous soldering. Now let's do a little more necessary soldering. Try to take off all this stuff. This is satisfying. Oh, maybe it would be more satisfying for you if it was in focus, sorry. Got a little bit of blue tack stuck around some of the resistor leads. It doesn't look that bad, right? I think I can poke it off with one of these leads. It's just very sticky. It sticks very well to itself, and so if you wrap it completely around anything, it's kind of hard to get off. Okay, well maybe the isopropanol will take care of the rest. Well, the brush mostly. Alright. Yeah, a little bit of residue, but it's fine. Let's do the last bit of soldering and then we can focus on cleaning. Oh yeah, Mikey says the board has a really old school color tone to it. Totally. Yeah, it kind of reminds me of like a Heathkit board or something. Alright, so let's make plus that long, minus that long. And some short wire stripped here. I think these wires need less pressure than I was using before. There we go. Gentle. Can't quite reach that one, so I might have to do that one. My non-manual stripper is not over here. Sorry, the manual stripper is not over here. The electronic one, automatic one, it's not an electronic stripper. Well, it's a stripper for electronics, but a stripper made from electronics seems like something I don't need. That's what I wanted to do. Okay, let's tin these and stick them together. Framed it just right and then pull something out from under it. Oh yeah, that insulation is not especially good with the heat, so let's be sure we can do that quickly. Alright. I think that will sit down flat, or at least as flat as it needs to be. And that can just go through the top. Cute. Great. Can snug that up a little bit since that's the main thing keeping these solder joints from pulling apart. Cool. Now for some cleaning. We'll use a stiff anti-static brush. Totally does not need to be anti-static for this project, but that's what I had handy. And I'll just drop the mount I had this on. It's fine. Are so nice. It's really amazing. Just when you think about it. Aren't you amazed at just how nice they are? Maybe you aren't. That's okay, I am. This looks a little streaky still, like it has a lot of flux residue on it. I'll try to get that off with something fibrous like this Kim wipe. This could be that the flux in this particular solder is not something I'm quite used to, and I need a different kind of cleaner. That's mostly coming off with IPA though. Just seemed to leave a little bit of a streak. Maybe I just need more. Some flux will not clean off with isopropyl alcohol, which is really sad. For that flux, like the worst stuff I found, isopropyl alcohol just makes it way worse. Like you put on a little bit of IPA and then the flux turns into this like white gummy stuff that's super hard to get off. Alright, not much cleaning is necessary on this side. I'm just going to give it a quick once over to try to get rid of any residue from that blue tack. Oh, Tuco's wandering around on top of the heater. I mean, it's off, of course, because it's summer here, but... Alright. Oh, this resistor is floating above the baseline a little bit. I kind of want to fix that, even though I just cleaned this. I think we can do that without making a huge mess. This would, of course, be the hardest one to move. I'll try to do this without burning my finger that much. See, that burned my finger only slightly. Okay, I think that's the stuff. The ticket. It, you know, the thing. So, if we plug this into some USB power, then we should be able to start plugging some LEDs into here and styling it. So I'm going to get a little USB, well, actually I have one right here. Of course I have one right here, but it's not a portable battery pack, but it does have a current meter on it. Alright, so that's plugged in. No explosions so far. Cool. I think the short one is the cathode. I always forget which one the long and short leads go to. I always look at the lead frame inside the LED. There we go. Oh, that's a beautiful... Oh, it is color changing. And went from like a nice soft red. Oh, these are really nice. It has this kind of subtly weird shape too. Like, I don't know, I'm used to the tops of LEDs being... let's make sure I'm not losing any right now. I'm used to the tops of LEDs kind of being... Well, let's get one to compare to. I don't have to just describe this. I can show you. the grab bag here. I guess being a grab bag, the way to use it is to reach in and then take one out. Oh, I think I have some of those General Electric solid-state lamps in here too. Okay, let's use the grab bag incorrectly and select some specific things from it. And one of those, and one of these. All right, sweet. So this is one of Clive's beautiful color-changing LEDs. Here is, let's put one next door with a different kind of LED. Mystery LED. I don't know what this is. It's probably red. No, it's white. Okay. It's a white LED. And then here's a yellow. At least I assume this one's yellow because it is made of yellow plastic. Oh yeah. Let's turn off the studio lights for a sec. Gotta stream this one when it's nighttime here so that I can turn off the lights, otherwise it's all sunlight. Oh man. So this is one of the vintage yellows. Do I have a solid state lamp here too? I think this is the solid state lamp. I might be backwards. Oh, there we go. Okay. So these LEDs are all running off of 5 volts with a 220 ohm resistor. They might still be drawing different amounts of current because of different forward voltage, but that's not going to be the main difference between brightness. This is the General Electric solid-state lamp over here, the really old school one. Here's a relatively modern white LED from like the early 2000s. And this is another old school LED. This is like a yellow from ancient Radio Shack times. Kind of the brightness comparison, if that makes any sense on camera. Now let's look at the shape with the studio lights on. So this yellow is maybe what I would consider to be, like me growing up in the era and location I did, this is what I think of as a classic LED. It's 5mm, it has this flange on the bottom, it has a flat side on one edge. It's not that bright, but it's pretty. And then these are more modern and still have that same shape with flat sides, this kind of spherical lens at the front, flange, flat edge there, much brighter. Now this is the General Electric solid-state lamp. I don't know if I still have any of the packaging for these. I got some of these in the original package, and I'm kind of kicking myself for not saving that. I don't know if I did, but like I got these surplus in the 90s, and I think the LED itself was from the 60s. It was either late 60s or early 70s, I think, but very early for LEDs at least. And the case has a flange, but it's really subtle compared to the other LEDs here. So it looks a little bit more like it's a cylinder. Oh, Tuco found the DigiKey packaging from earlier today. I was going to move the camera, but I think he's already about done with it for the moment. Okay, so there's that. Then here's the LEDs from bigclive. It might be a little hard to see with it on because they're still so bright, but the edges I'm used to are kind of more cylindrical. This has a much more tapered profile. And I would expect that to maybe be something they do to make it easier to injection mold. But it might just be a different style. There's also this sharp angle between the lens and the side of the LED body, which is pretty weird. Let's also look at one of these that's off, perhaps. Yeah, interesting design. Oh yeah, the gold. This isn't gold, I think. Well, is it gold? I thought it was just like brass. Yeah, I mean, maybe it's gold plated. I hadn't really thought of it. It doesn't really look like gold. I think it's brass plated, but yeah, these are still super weird. And I've got maybe like 10 of them or something. They look really weird inside too. It might actually be interesting to try decapsulating one of these. Can I use the white LED to illuminate the red LED? Yeah, the lead frame is just this flat plate. It doesn't have that kind of anvil shape that I'm used to. And you can see the shadow of the bond wire. Oh yeah, I bet Fran has some ancient LEDs. That this might be related to her interests also. Anyway, we don't have to spend the entire video going on an LED safari. I think those are probably the most interesting ones in the grab bag. Most of the ones I have here are... I bought a lot of these white ones at one point for a project that didn't really pan out, so I still have a bunch of those. Oh, cool. And there's enough room for these to kind of seat further down in there if you want. Yeah, do I feel like trimming the leads? I feel like they could be nice with the leads trimmed. It also might be nice to just have them stick out a bit. I don't have to really decide right now. Let's try just sticking all the LEDs in, and then we can kind of figure out how to style it like we want. So this is, yeah, long lead is anode, and I'm just going to push them all in just so that the leads are not quite sticking out the other end. Wow, these LEDs are really nicely diffused. And I think with them all cycling a little bit differently, it's going to look quite nice. I was going to start reading you off like current readings, but the current meter this is plugged into is being shared by a Raspberry Pi. It's not the most convenient setup at the moment. We could hook it up to a bench supply though. Oh no, I bent a lead. Let's unbend that. There we go. I wonder if there's going to be any LEDs left over. I wonder if it's time to put this back on autofocus. This feels very related to a thing that I've been wanting to build for a while. It's like one of those kind of arty ideas that sticks in your head and won't go away. I even got some of the parts to start building this, I just haven't committed the time to it yet. I wanted to make something that had like a cast resin or plastic base, and in that cast base there would be a dead bug style BGA AVR micro. So just, you know, some microcontroller that's convenient to use that can drive LEDs directly, and then do dead bug BGA to an arrangement a lot like this, but maybe Charlieplex it so that you can individually address the LEDs. And then, you know, so you have this very, very fine wiring that you can embed into the base. You could even maybe cast the base into a shape that has some lens built in, like kind of give it a spherical side so that you can then look at it kind of magnifying the wiring inside. And then it would kind of come out with the resin. Maybe there would also be like a silicone layer above the resin to act as a, like some encapsulation for the like basically an LED tree that would grow out of it. I mean, I was about to say strain relief, but like you aren't going to be moving the tree wires around much. It's just more like, I don't know. I like things that have smooth gradients between material hardnesses. That feels much more natural and less likely to break, even in cases where it doesn't really need to move around. I think we might have a few extra LEDs. Cool. Well, it looks like we have 4 extras, which I will put aside because they're really pretty. And I'm sure there are a lot of cool things that I could do with these. All right. I'm just going to untangle these first and then kind of start twisting them together and making branches. Oh, that's great. Whisperfist says that the summer here in San Francisco is similar daytime temperatures to them in East Coast Australia, with cool, clear nights giving fantastic views of the Milky Way. Well, that's cool. That's definitely something we don't get around here. Way too much light pollution. At least not like as close to the city as I am right now. I don't, excuse me, I don't live like in San Francisco anymore, but I live on the opposite side of the bay from it, basically. It's kind of like, I don't know, it's like Brooklyn, sort of. I kind of want to power cycle this so that all the LEDs come on at the same time, and then I want to see what that looks like how fast they might diverge. Ah, this is already satisfying the way all these wires just come together. I wonder if I can be especially careful with the way the red and the black wires lay and make an interesting color pattern. I don't know. Like, it might be kind of interesting to, well, I don't know. I don't know how complicated I can get with this. But now I'm thinking, like, what happens if I try to keep the black wires on the outside? Let's change angles a little bit. Oh, yeah. Oh, that's nice. Maybe he gave out more, like a few extra LEDs, partly so that you can kind of tune them if there are some particular LEDs that have especially wacky timings. Because some of them are kind of diverging a little bit already. I don't know how easy it is to tell. We'll take a closer look at this without the studio lights. Actually, can I just turn them off right now? Oh, yeah. Well, that's nice. We can still kind of work on that. Let's get this camera restarted. Yeah. The part of me that just wants to organize everything is like, okay, I just need to get all the LEDs pointed with their red and black wires consistently, and then I can put them in an interesting pattern from there. sure it would also be satisfying just to kind of mush them all together in your hands. Oh yeah, Sodium suggests weaving the wires into kind of a basket formation. That seems pretty cool. Yeah, that would have been a lot easier without the wires soldered, but that's cool. Yeah, I'm mostly just playing at this point. Like, I don't really know where I'm going. I'm just kind of trying to see what is fun. It's pretty cool having, I don't know, like, the experiences of working with solid wire and working with stranded silicone wire. Like, I just really appreciate how different those are. Oh, that's neat. There's kind of a cluster of them that are still kind of hanging out around green, and another that's well into the blues. I'm mostly just trying to make sure that the red and black wires are not twisted, and the black wires on the outside and the reds on the inside. Which may or may not actually matter. It's just the thing that's pleasing me right at the moment. I wonder where Tuco's hanging out now. I guess one thing I wasn't quite sure of with the little kind of resin encapsulated addressable LED tree thing that I was thinking about building, I wasn't sure if that would want to be fully encapsulated or just have an encapsulated base. I think the way I was imagining it was to have an encapsulated base and then for the top of it to be in like a tiny bell jar or something like that. And the whole thing could be really little. Like I was imagining it could have a base with just a stack of a couple of CR2032s in it or something. Okay, I think that is nicely, you can already see it's looking a little more orderly. It's not quite as just splayed out everywhere. So, I guess I could try to do... What does it look like if I bring the reds toward the center? This might work so far. I'm kind of liking this. I think I might just give each, like give the center and the outside a little, like a partial twist in a different direction. I think that might be interesting. This is already casting some interesting shadows on my desk. I guess that's even coming across on camera. Cool. Yeah. This is nice so far. I wonder if I could use the other pink zip tie in the tree formation somewhere. This is a little bit more in the dark than I usually do kits, but it's pretty fun. There we go. That's all the red wires pushed toward the center. So now I've kind of made this outer cylinder and an inner cylinder. And I don't want like whatever twist or whatever I do down here, these still want to be separate branches pretty soon after, so I don't want to make it last that long. I mostly just want something that can keep the reds and the blacks a little bit visually separate down here at the bottom, because I think that would be interesting. So I might grab it right here, and then twist it kind of from the middle. And I think the outer twist that I'm about to do is going to want to partially undo this, so I might twist it a little tighter than I actually want it. Separate these a little bit so it's more like a cylinder again. It'd be funny if this shorted out and reset my Raspberry Pi. Cool. So those, I'm going to kind of try to more uniformly skew them in this direction. Kind of like that. Now let's see what it takes to actually get the branches back out. And maybe we want to start turning this into bundles of branches. I mean, I feel like maybe you could just continue to fuss with this forever. Maybe that's part of the fun of this. There's like kind of an early branch in the tree right here, and then some like kind of more gnarly twisty bits. And maybe that was too twisty. I like having kind of clusters. This area kind of needs to turn into branches still. It's still kind of amorphous. Hey, Tuco. Kind of like lighting a Christmas tree, but very different. This is starting to look like a little bit like the City of Oakland logo, which is kind of a wiry tree like this. Now it's kind of missing lights in the very middle. Starting to like that. This is not really a job you can do with a pick and place machine. Maybe I want to give this whole thing a bit of a twist now. Now you just gotta make sure it looks good from all the angles, right? Oh, just looking at the comments and catching up. Yeah, Mike Crawford says Oaklandish, which is, yeah, this looks a lot like the Oakland logo. And K. Temkin says you could probably balance a cut glass gem in the center for all kinds of cool shimmeries. Oh, that sounds fun. Maybe like a crystal ball or something. a lot of weird lens flare effects on the camera there. Yeah, I figure this could totally just be a toy that you keep fidgeting with. Because the tree, it's just, you know, always in need of some amount of rearrangement. Maybe a time lapse will show what patterns I eventually converge it towards. Well, thanks so much, Clive. This was amazing. Just getting a great little kit and then putting it together and then trying to share the experience with all of you as best I can. Oh, that's a cool suggestion from Mikey. 2 Cobalt LED caps. Yeah. Do I have any 2 Cobalts around here, Andy? Hey Tuco, you must have a bolt, right? Where are you, Tuke? Hey Tuke, where's your bolt? Tuco, where's your bolt? Here's one. Oh, maybe I can stop down the camera a little bit to give you a better idea of what the bright parts of this look like. That might look kind of nice actually if you had a little bolt that the LED could fit inside of. Hee hee hee. Yeah, actually that could be really nice. Maybe I could print some caps out of Semiflex, perhaps, so they would stretch a little bit, and that actually acts as a nice light diffuser. Well, I think that's about a good point to wrap this up. Well, this little doodad will certainly be appearing in future videos by virtue of hanging out in my shop. So yeah, thanks so much, Clive. This has been a nice little experience, and I hope everyone else who was lucky enough to get one of these kits from Clive has a great time putting it together. I think they're super fun. And also hoping this is in focus. Oh, did I even not drink my beer? I have like 3/4 of this left. So like we could just end this with like a Q&A while we watch this thing shimmer and I drink my beer. Or I could throw bolts for Tuco since it seems like that's what he wants. Maybe not so much. Let's see, we've also got... Oh, that's right. I was going to click over to the 3D printing channel, but I was having trouble with my 3D printing camera, so there's currently no live camera, but... Tuco? Did you find it? You too. Yep. Well, we are closer than ever to having an automated robot for following this little guy around. That's what this whole pile of 3D printed parts is for. Printer is currently working on another one of these, which is a bracket that holds some rollers and the optical encoder. Well, thanks so much for joining Tuco and I and bigclive by proxy on this adventure. And a special thanks to everyone who supports the channel by hanging out, sending hardware, by supporting us monthly on Patreon. It's all super helpful and keeps us going. Oh, and Peter is asking how many more of the winch bots to print. We're actually really close. I mean, I'm not printing them all just kind of one by one. I'm kind of printing the parts as I have them designed, but I've got pretty much everything. I mean, I'm down to like the last couple of prints of the parts that I have designed for the set of 4 winch bots, so that's why I really feel like I need to kick myself in the pants and get some more CAD done, because I need to do some more prints, or need to do prints of stuff that I have not yet designed. So a few more things I can print that I have designed, like more pulleys and that extra bracket, but yep. Well, thanks everyone. I will see you next time, and until then, happy hacking. Also cat. There's always cat.